I used to think reliability was the highest form of love. That showing up, no matter how tired or unseen you felt, was proof that you were good. That being the one who held everything together somehow meant you belonged. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 33. Husband to a woman who believes in gentle mornings and forgiveness, and father to two little people who remind me every day what innocence sounds like. No matter how loud the world gets, when my son laughs, it cuts through everything. When my daughter falls asleep on my chest, it's like the whole universe exhales. Our house is small, a little crooked on one side. The walls hum when the wind hits just right. There's a crack near the hallway light switch I keep meaning to fix. The kind of house that smells like warm coffee and crayons. Imperfect. But ours. For a long time, I thought peace meant keeping that kind of life untouched, never letting conflict through the door. I thought being quiet, being helpful, meant I was doing the right thing. And then came the wedding. It was my stepsister Lila's, the crown jewel of our family. The influencer, the brand ambassador, the one who posts pastel breakfasts and captions about gratitude. She's my stepmother Vivian's favorite topic, favorite person, favorite project. If there's a golden child in the story, she's painted head to toe in gold leaf. Vivian, my dad's wife, has always had a way of turning other people's milestones into moral tests. If you help, you're good. If you hesitate, you're difficult. And I've spent most of my adult life trying not to be difficult. So when Vivian called one night, soft voice, serious tone, I already knew what was coming. Ethan, honey, she said, we just need a little help getting things off the ground for Lila's big day. You've always been so dependable. Dependable. That word again. It lands like a compliment but sticks like a label. Dinner that weekend was everything I expected it to be. Vivian's table set like a magazine spread, crystal glasses no one actually drinks from, candles that smell like money. Dad smiled too wide, filling the silence with questions that weren't really questions. Lila arrived 40 minutes late, floating in silk and self-assurance. They brought out a binder. A literal binder. Inside, venue photos, fabric samples, handwritten notes about floral design and lighting aesthetics. At the end, a neat little spreadsheet. Venue deposit, $14,000. Catering, photography, decor, another $18,000. And then Vivian's favorite phrase. We thought you could handle this part. You've got such a stable life. Across the table, my wife Nora froze. I could feel her pulse shift, that quiet tension in her jaw. We just finished paying off hospital bills from when our daughter broke her arm. Our savings weren't a cushion, they were a lifeline. I cleared my throat. We can help with the deposit. But that's all. Vivian's smile didn't even twitch. Knew you'd come through, she said, like I'd passed a test I never wanted to take. Weeks passed, and every message from her came with a new favor. The DJ's retainer. The florist's urgent discount. The photographer's travel fee. Each one wrapped in that same tone, sweet, expectant, entitled. And every time I said yes, a small piece of me said no. I remember standing in the kitchen one night, phone buzzing on the counter, watching Nora pack lunches for the kids. She looked up and said, "When does it stop?" And I didn't have an answer. Then came the final text. A week before the wedding. Final head count, no kids. Bride wants an adult-only aesthetic. I stared at it for a long time. We were a family of 4. That wasn't a detail, it was who we were. I said, "We'll have to sit that one out then," Vivian replied, "Don't be dramatic. We'll figure it out." But I knew what she meant. We'll figure out how to make you bend. The morning of the wedding was cold and blindingly bright. Nora looked beautiful, steady, graceful, the kind of calm you don't earn easily. Our son, Liam, wore a tiny suit jacket he refused to take off. Our daughter, Ellie, kept asking if she'd get cake. We packed the car, took a deep breath, and drove to the venue. The building looked like something out of a magazine, an old barn covered in flowers, all white and gold and too perfect to be real. I tried to convince myself that it would be fine. That maybe they'd come to their senses. But as we reached the entrance, a man in a black suit stopped us. Clipboard in hand. 2 sheets of paper in a plastic sleeve. And there, printed in color, were Liam and Ellie's school photos. Beneath each, written in thick black marker. Do not admit. I thought my heart would stop. He smiled apologetically. Sorry, sir. Bride's orders. No children allowed inside. And then Vivian appeared, like a ghost conjured by shame. Hair perfect, voice calm, not a flicker of remorse. It's not personal, she said. Lila just wants an elegant aesthetic. Kids can be unpredictable. Nora's voice shook. You printed our children's faces to show a guard. It's just logistics, Vivian said. Ellie tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, did we do something bad? Something inside me fractured. Quietly. Cleanly. It wasn't anger, it was the death of tolerance. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the wedding card with the check inside, and handed it to Vivian. Congratulations, I said. Then we turned around at no scene. No yelling. Just the sound of gravel under our shoes and the weight of a boundary finally taking form. That night, the house felt both heavy and safe. The kids watched cartoons on the couch, unaware of the earthquake that had just shifted our lives. Then my phone rang. A man's voice, measured, unfamiliar. I'm Mark, the groom's father, he said. I just saw the guest list. I told my son to cancel the ceremony. They're on their way to you now, to apologize, to spin, to fix it. Don't open the door. And we didn't. The knocking came 20 minutes later. First soft, then louder. Voices I knew by heart, Vivian's desperate tone, Dad's performative guilt, Lila's trembling apologies. For years, I would have opened that door. Would have offered coffee, forgiveness, compromise. But this time, I just stood there, watching their shadows move behind the frosted glass, and realized something simple and terrifying. Every time I fixed things, I made it easier for them to break me. So I walked away from the door. The next morning, I sent an email. Subject line, reimbursement request. No emotion. Just numbers. Venue deposit, $14,000. Catering, $9,200. Florist, $3,600. Photography, $2,550. Miscellaneous, $1,000. Total, $30,350. And one paragraph at the end. You denied entry to the event you asked me to fund by posting my children's faces under Do Not Admit. This isn't about money, it's about self-respect. I expect full reimbursement. Within 30 days. They called me ungrateful. Cold. Said I'd ruined the family narrative. But the truth was, the family narrative was built on my silence. Weeks passed. Payments trickled in, first from Dad, then, reluctantly, from Vivian. Each transfer came with a message trying to reframe history. It wasn't personal. You misunderstood. It was just one day. But for me, it wasn't about one day. It was about every day I'd swallowed my worth to keep someone else comfortable. A month later, Dad stopped by. He stood on my porch, older than I remembered, holding an envelope like it might save him. When I opened the door, he said, I don't recognize you anymore. And I looked him right in the eye and said, I know. I finally recognized myself. After he left, I sat on the porch steps, watching the sun slide across the street. Liam ran through the yard chasing bubbles, Ellie laughed so hard she fell on the grass, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like someone's backup plan or emotional furniture. I felt free. Peace, I've learned, isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of boundaries. It's saying, this is mine to protect, even when the people you love don't understand why. Sometimes love means closing the door. And sometimes, the quiet that follows isn't loneliness, it's healing.